So I come from a family, Christian God was a thing at home. One time, then there was someone who just landed in our church, who stood in front and said, "I'm attracted to women." As I'm sitting in the chair, I'm like,
That's me.
"That's me." Meaning that, this is something bad. Along the way, now one day we find being called, there's an emergency meeting, and then the conversation begins. Yeah, how do you sleep? And then we look at each other, and who said we are sleeping? Immediately we were told that we are going to be excommunicated from
Oh
church.
no.
Whether they told us whatever, we're going to go to church next week Sunday.
What?
We need help.
The
How are you?
braveness.
Yeah, so how are you telling us not to come here? And I guess then they realized that these kids are not going to go anyway. So now there's going to be night prayers every Friday.
Damn.
And we agree, and then my home was the place that these things was
Oh
going to
no.
happen.
Yeah.
But then the thing was not changing.
It
I
can't.
love women more. But like, I knew that I love God so much. It was just like, God has called you. So, God called anyone that God wants. And there's nothing I can change about who I am as a person. So something happened. So I was gang raped.
I'm
And,
so sorry to hear that.
yeah, so it was just then that I decided to drink all my medication and whatever. And then the ambulance was called, and I thought I died. And I got very angry when, so the doctor was attending to me, wangipha amaklap.
Welcome everyone to the very first episode of Unscripted by FAQ. I'm B Ndlovu from the Better Health Group, and today again we're going to be touching on real voices, raw moments, and conversations that shift how we think about health and healing ourselves from within. Today's episode is special, it's personal, and very powerful, as we are going to be talking about faith and queerness and what it means to belong in spaces that often tell you that you don't belong. Our guest is a very special one that is close to me, and I think the conversation that we're about to have today, we have Reverend Nokuthula. Got it. We have Reverend Nokuthula Dhladhla. But welcome to our very first unscripted by FAQ conversations that we're having. But before we start, can I just give you the opportunity to explain who you are and what it is that you do?
Okay. So I am Reverend Elder Nokuthula Dhladhla. I am from here in somewhere in Joburg South. So I am a leader, religious leader, with the denomination that is called Metropolitan Community Church. So I'm one of the Council of Elders that was recently, somewhere last year, appointed from Africa. So our denomination is a global denomination that has all churches everywhere in the world. We looking into, the inclusion of queer people within that they practice their own faith. So I am also a lead pastor for the local church here in Soweto that is called Hope and Unity Metropolitan Community Church. So we are in Soweto, in a Belgian community center. I also work for the Global Interfaith Network, in short, we say GIN, and always people assume
Gordon's.
that we are selling GIN, but it's for all people of different sexes, sexual orientation, gender expression, and like we do work with LGBTI people of faith, especially in Global South. The work that I do for that, I am a regional coordinator. We have different kinds of programs, projects that we are doing, but the one that I'm leading is called Religious Dialogue Partner Program, which works with Christian Council of Churches in SADC countries, and also LGBTIQ plus people of faith in those countries. So what we do, we do awareness, because many faith tradition believe that LGBTIQ plus people don't belong in church. People are demonized, or stigmatized, or some they get excommunicated because of their sexual orientation. So when we started the program, we had work in Lesotho, Mozambique, Malawi, Botswana. Now we are looking into expanding, because we are 3 partners. It's like Free is a Norwegian LGBTI organization, and also for KISA as an umbrella that is called Fellowship of Christian Council of Churches, and then there's us, Global Interfaith Network. So, but also within the church, as I've mentioned, that I am an elder, so we are responsible for different churches everywhere, but also into making sure that we are promoting inclusion, issues around justice. There's one thing that as a denomination we believe in these 4 pillars of our that we're promoting building communities, we promoting inclusion, we promoting issues of justice and spiritual transformation, because we know that a lot of people have been harmed, and being told that they don't belong.
For sure.
So that is what mainly I do. So I speak in different platforms, and also facilitate difficult dialogues around issues of gender, sexuality, and faith. And I also, work with LGBTIQ plus people on the ground, to make sure that they also find ways of integrating their sexuality and their spirituality, because it is important that as a human being, you maintain yourself as a whole, because then we find that people struggle into, my faith is important, but also I am struggling with my sexuality. What do I do? Do I separate myself? And so I, do counseling. I do, help, because in the program also we have had to deal with parents who have LGBTIQ plus children, and also we also have conversations with parents who are LGBTI, who are raising LGBTIQ plus, and then also communities, to create that space to have, let's have conversations, and so that is mainly in short what I do.
Love it. I love the work that you do, and I think one of the things that attracted us to inviting you to have this conversation is because many a times it's that, as you are saying, Hori, there's conflict within internally amongst young people, which then adds to the mental health issues, the high suicide rates, all the things that we are seeing, and even within the sexual and reproductive health stuff that it becomes linked as well. But before I think we dive deeper into the work, I would like to just to get to know you before everything, like the 10-year-old you. I am so fascinated about the story of the journey of how, what, where, njani. Because when I hear about your accomplishment, I'm just like, I need to know what was happening with the 10-year-old girl. How were you raised? How did you become the person that you are today, who's doing amazing work across the world?
So I come from a family, Christian God was a thing at home, and I'm the firstborn. My mother had 5 children, my 2 brothers and my late 2 brothers and my 2 sisters. So, and then I'm the first one. So I grew up in that environment where, everything was prayer, everything was gratitude. Everything was God first before anything. And but you know, as my 10-year-old was in that confusion of, you know, how I was feeling at that time, and but because it was not an open conversation that I can just say there's something about me that does not add up, does not fit in anything. And because what I was hearing, you know, in the church was, you know, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah was preached, and you know how, you know, those people are going to die in hell, but then there was no mention of women. So it was like men who sleeps with other men. God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah because nje kwakunaleyo mkhuba. So now hearing that as a child, vele ikwenza, you know, you are like very scared to even talk about it. But it was now at a later stage, you know, when now 10, 14, now realizing, you know, things are unfolding about my, you know, you now starting to have menstruation. Now you are starting to hear conversation about, you know, people are dating, you know, that kind of a serious conversation that confuses you. And it was hard for me because now you keep on hearing that, you know, men who sleeps with another man. There was no language for it. That the English that we are using, that gay was a male person who sleeps with other men. So bekushiwo nje kuthiwa you know la madoda eSodoma abhujiswa, and you hear all that. And now the way it was preached, it was made, you know, uze ubone nawe lo mlilo ukuthi, you know, uzophendulwa kanje, and everything. So it was just my little secret. And until now, as a teenager, then at some point in my life, and then I realized that, you know, it is very hard. It was really hard. It then happened one day, I think, you know, when I turned 18 or so. So in between now, you have to fit in, have a boyfriend, or, you know, you have to now, when people are talking, or other young people are talking about their boyfriend, you also have to, you know, contribute to the conversation.
You need to add,
You know, nami, you know, ukona, owami, and all that. You know, so it was just a stressful moment because now, who do I talk to? Because I've never even heard a word. I don't know if there's any other women who are like me. Like how do you begin to have that conversation? It was then one time, then there was someone who just landed in our church, who stood in front and said, you know, I need prayers, I'm new here, I want God, I am struggling, you know, I'm attracted to women. As I'm sitting in the chair, I'm like,
that's me.
That's me. So if then this person is struggling, meaning that, you know, this is something bad. And you know, so they prayed for her, you know. But then the thing that really got me very sad was after church, nobody was like, you know, nobody wanted to talk to this person. So and then I got an opportunity to say, hey buddy, you know, I think me and you are on the same boat. Can we be friends? And yeah, that's how, you know, then I had someone who will understand what I was feeling, and who also was like saying, we need to fast and pray, you know. So that was our thing, because now we are looking at how these scriptures have been translated. Now we are looking at ourselves and thinking, actually we're going to die in hell, or, you know, and we don't want to go to hell. You know, we want to be in heaven. And, you know, weeks went by. So, yeah, so it's just me and her. And along the way, now one day we find being called, you know, there's an emergency meeting, you know, yama elders of the church. But then the thing about it, those were men. You know, in our church we had men who are, you know, elders. So they called us in. It was Saturday. Then both of us are, you know, we've been summoned, and nobody's explaining what is the reason behind that we are being asked to come here. And we were sitting, so they were sitting around, and we were put inside the circle. And then the conversation begins. Yeah, you know, how do you sleep? And then we look at each other, and we like, you know, that kind of a thing, yeah, interrogation. And it was not even nice, and we are confused. You know, who said we are sleeping? We are just, you know, together because, like I'm explaining that this person who came to our church who does not have friends, you know, like what is going on? And you know, there was, then one of them said, but then these are young people, why are we asking them how do they sleep? How do we explain? How do we expect them to explain that this is what they do? And then immediately we were told that we are going to be excommunicated from church.
No.
And then we were like, now it's a dream. It's like you are dreaming, and something is happening, but you know, nobody's giving you even a platform to really explain that, you know, we haven't even done anything. We haven't even been thinking
We're
about it.
not even dating.
We are not, yes.
We are praying together.
We were praying together. So Sunday comes and the church was full. And normally when someone was going to be excommunicated, you know, they'll ask visitors to go steps outside, and then they'll ask children, you know, to take steps out. Not that weekend, not that day. That day we were made Uguma Pambili, and you know, the person who was saying that information was like really saying that those two have created, we have done something like magabi. And then we were told, Guti, you know, whatever that we have is transferable, so women must run away from us, and all those and all. Imagine, Guti, my mother is there, my grandmother, and my sisters, and everyone. And I could not explain at home that this is what is going to happen tomorrow. I was like thinking, and how do I explain? How do I say, you know, I am being because now, you know, me and this person, it was confusing. Now my mother is crying, you know, now
That's
you are
okay.
standing there like you like ngihlazo. And now I've made my parents to feel shame, and the fact that they are very, you know, they are in leadership positions, meaning now it's like it's a big thing. And you know, that is how it ended. And the two of us thought, what are we going to do? And now at home, we got home, there was no conversation.
No.
And now I am wondering whether I should pack my bag and leave, or what is going to happen, what is the punishment I am going to be given. It's confusing because, you know, I thought then they will ask me, so nobody, you know, I guess, you know, it was at a later stage when I understood that they did not know what, you know, what is this and how to really respond to it. And then it went on the point that we then, me and, you know, this friend of mine, we just decided that whether they told us whatever, we're going to go to church next week Sunday.
What?
So, and then, because like, how are you chasing us when we need help? How are
braveness.
you? Yeah, so how are you telling us not to come here? And, you know, we continue going. We went.
And they didn't kick you out?
Yeah, no. So we settled the bag, and then I guess then they realized that these kids are not going to go anyway. So we need to come up with a plan. So the plan, eventually, because now we are going. For us, nothing has happened. So if you have a problem, it
You
is
must
your
come
problem.
to us, all right?
Yeah,
It's your problem.
we're not worried about anything because we did nothing wrong. But I think at that moment, it was also now the pressure on us to find ways of how we're going to fast and pray, and because now then it is true that now we are feeling good. You know, we need to do something about this situation. This situation is wrong. We punished ourselves to a point that now then the church decided that no, they're going to offer us prayers. So now there's going to be night prayers every Friday. And we agree, and then my home was the place that these things was going to happen.
Yeah.
So then again, then these prayers begin. So the first week, so the thing about it that I always laugh about it now, singing Dala Uti, it was a thing about now they would go somewhere and then gather together, but you know, by preparing, you know, so that then they can be dealing with these demons. And then they get to my home. So now it's night prayer. So you're going to be prayed for. So then prayers were not fun because you know there's a lot of people against the two of you, or there's a lot of people against you, and in between the prayers, you know, some people are they don't pray for you nicely. You know, they
It's
yeah,
not.
yeah, it's like
You get
yeah, like
you get
yeah. So
shaken.
those kinds
Yeah.
of things. So it was first week, second week, third week, and then now you know you like you are
Getting
sore,
weaker. Yeah.
you are feeling a lot of things, and you know, but kunendethi, you know, ukubekezela, so that you know, when these prayers are, you know, I can see change. But then the thing was not changing.
It
I
can't.
love women more. I'm like, maybe this is the demon really serious. So I need to fast on my side. And I also, you know, I need to allow God to do something about my situation. But eventually, then I felt very violated because now it was a thing that, you know, whenever you are feeling the pain, because a lot of people are praying for you, then but highly demon kuluma, or you know, yeah, and these things, and then you are manhandled, you know, in a way, and at that time there was a time when you know you could feel, you know, people were touching me in places that they are not supposed to.
No.
In their head, what was the story after was the thing that people assume that we have two body parts, you know, like that kind
Okay.
of a thing.
Intersexed, yeah.
But I felt very violated. I felt, you know, like how, you know, because you don't know, these are men and women, there's a chaos in these prayers. It's not a thing that it's so nice, it's been done gentle,
Gentle. No, no,
because
no.
already there's an assumption that you have a demon that is very strong. So me and my friend had to lie, now realizing that these things is not going to stop. We'll end up being beaten up to a point that we are harmed. So no, we are not doing that business anymore. So we lied and said, now prayers have helped,
It's
hallelujah.
worked.
We have found Jesus, we are okay now. We don't need prayers anymore. So then we were given an opportunity to come back to church fully. You know, the announcement was made that we are now have found something and we are okay. So, you know, things started to change. But then now there's a thing about that whole process. I was also now realizing that I was dealing with two things. Now also I feel called for ministry, and now there's a war inside of myself that, you know, how do God call someone like me? And you know, like there's a moment that is happening in my life, you know, where now I have lied, you know, on top of it.
And I think that's such a good thing that you raised that, because my follow-up question would be, in such a conflicting environment, where was the clash? Like how did you, what can I say? What's the word? How did you marry the two? Because coming from such a violent past where you were not accepted, and then I know also what ministry is a calling. It's not something that you just wake up and go. It's the same as if I'm a lesbian or if I'm queer or what. It's something that's inside you. It's not something that you just decide. How did you deal with that conflict? I mean, and what did that conflict cost you?
Okay. So that conflict cost me, you know, like I felt that I was not good enough. I felt that I was not the right person for it, and why God will do such a thing. So it felt like is it a punishment, or what is this about, and the fact that it's not even me, there's other people who are seeing, who are also confirming what I'm struggling with, and to say just let God and do what God has called you.
Did you have more people who are also lesbians come through and say, Ish, they were all hiding, going,
Yeah,
I don't want
so
whatever's
again,
happening to
no,
her.
no.
I don't even want to get
I
close
don't,
to her.
I don't want
Yeah.
to, so it was just me and her, and just that kind of a situation, and the fact that when I knew that I love God so much. I knew that I have learned so much from my grandmother, my mother, about God and trusting in God. But then because now you are carrying something inside yourself that is creating a whole lot of the things that are not really very nice for yourself, and I think that conflict was it was just like God has called you, so God called anyone that God wants, and there's no way. It's the same thing that it's when I was now an elder to realize that there's nothing I can change about who I am as a person, because that is what God wanted me to be. And so in the midst of the conflicts, then I started Magnio Gwenzu, I will join the team that goes, and so I was like excited. That life, I was like, I need to forget about
My
whatever
personal life
yeah,
and who
so
I'm attracted
now
to.
I'm focused on what God has called me. It was then when so an incident happened while I was on my way because we were in doing some work in Mount Elif, so that kind of an excitement. So something happened, so I was gang raped, and
so sorry to hear that.
yeah, so it was just then when so I had someone that I trusted in church, that when I was at the police station, they called her to come, and and that whole thing of this has happened, and in between that, no, she then called everyone from church. So now I'm in her house. I am just numb. I could not believe this has happened, and the fact that I nearly died in that moment. And and like you are, it's like I just died, and or I'm just dreaming. This is happening, and now people were coming in, singing. It was in the evening, and I had my medication, and yeah. So then the people were like, yeah. So what I heard that they really made me to feel like, when I was told that God was punishing me, God was trying to tell me that I can, it's men are meant to sleep with women, and
corrective rape.
nobody is even thinking
That it's rape.
about how am I feeling, this has happened, and this is the God. So I'm sitting there, and there was a song that was playing in my head. I never understood what was the meaning of it. I kept on, because now I'm hearing all these things are shocking, and it kept on saying, through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned, so it's ringing in my head, and I'm listening to the people who are saying this is, and how is it? People have just decided that this is what they're going to tell me, instead of being encouraged, being whatever. It
Or
was
even
that
protected, and
yes,
shielded in that
and feel
moment.
safe. So it was there when I made a decision that what, I've had it. I I don't want to be alive anymore, and I've made that decision So, and I closed off. I did not even want to hear whatever that was said or whatever prayers that were offered. And because I've made a decision that I'm going to take my life. So it was that night that I decided to drink all my medication and whatever, and then the ambulance was called, and I thought I died. And I got very angry when, so the doctor was attending to me, wangipha clap, and then I ngaphaphama. So like he was very upset and saying, "You are very young. Do you know that, uNkulunkulu akakulethanga la, there was no mistake that you are here, and why would we want to take your life? Whatever it is, you must know that through it all, God will see you through." And I was so angry.
I can't hear you.
I'm waking up like, how do I, like, why? Why
Kusami.
did I have to wake up? And, and then that moment, I just decided that I'm going home. So I don't even have shoes. I don't have, so I just wake up from that bed and I just, discharged myself and left the hospital. But as I was coming back, then there's a thought in me that came, and that gentle voice. So I was sure that that God that I was told about, that punishes people, I am divorcing it. That's how I said it to myself. And I am going to find God who is loving and who is kind. That was then my journey to start looking at scriptures. And then the one scripture that I landed into was Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, that, I knew you before you were born. So I read those Psalms 139, wonderfully made in the image of God. So it was then that kind of a journey that, when I said divorcing the God, because I knew that I love God and God has called me. And, those words of that man, the doctor who said, "I have a purpose," that is what really got me to say, actually, I'm not a mistake. Actually, I would not allow anybody to tell me who I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
And how I'm supposed to be. But still, there was a thing about, my sexuality that was a problem. And then until one day, a friend, that same woman, had these gay guys who will come. So she used to sell cakes. So one time they were talking about this church, this pastor who is a out gay man who is running a church, that Hope and Unity I told you about earlier. And then, I met that man, pastor, who really, Tandegiso Tsietsi was like, Tsietsi Tandegiso was like my savior, because I needed to now begin my own healing. He said, it's either you choose to live as a victim, or, you choose to live as a person who's going to feel sorry for yourself. But you must know that, God did not just bring you here. All that has happened to a point that you are, especially that, God has called you.
Yeah.
God did not look at you and look at you as your sexuality.
Yeah.
But God looked at you as someone, as a vessel that God can use. And it's up to you to decide what you need to do about it.
And I think, so firstly, your story is just so inspiring, because in our team, we have Munolo who fetched you, and when you hear her coming out story and how easy it is now, it's not as easy, but I mean, at this age, it's no longer as persecutory as it was before. And when we hear her coming out story and how it was just nice, I just had a TikTok, and then my parents already knew, and seeing where that comes from in the past, and if we look across Africa and what we're seeing today, in this day today, and there's still a rise in the anti-queerness sentiments, especially in the church as well, and it's fueled pretty much by religion and that God that you said you are divorcing in the beginning. I mean, what do you think of what you are currently seeing or what we are currently experiencing right now, from the legalities, it being, I mean, Uganda, we have Kenya, we have Ghana, who have made it so persecutory to have a lifestyle, and it's all fueled by religion. What are your take and insights on what's currently happening now?
Okay, so what is happening now is very heartbreaking. You know, like I'm always sad, and I wish, you know, we can like spread that message of love and hope, and but the truth of the matter is that, you know, this is very harmful because it's the people who are like me who are also, you know, in their own ways, because, you know, learning that we are spiritual beings, you know, we live in the physical body, we have souls, and sexuality form part of who we are. So there's a thing about how whenever we say sexuality, the assumption in people's head is you are talking about the queer people. But all human beings are sexual beings. And we have been created and been given that gift that this is what we're going to be as sexual beings. Sexual orientation means that we have, you know, diversity of, you know, who I am attracted to, who you are attracted to, you know, how God has created us in that manner. Because if God wanted all of us to be the same way, I guess we would wake up same way. We will be the same. We will have the same color of our skin, and we will think the same things. We'll have, you know, same physical bodies, and you know. So it is very harmful, and it is very sad that, you know, as religious leaders, especially spaces of faith that are meant to be safe space, because, you know, when I am a religious leader, my duty is to welcome everyone. The same way that, you know, Jesus was, you know, talking to all people that have been marginalized, like a woman from Samaritan woman. You know, we find Jesus talk to tax collectors, the people that were, you know, were stigmatized and discriminated because, you know, they don't fit into you know, society, how society look at us, and how society think about us. These laws are, you know, I hear people say it is un-African, but then you look at the laws that we are operating, you know, with. Those are colonizers' laws that we now have made it as it is an African, and then we also in the faith community we say it is an Christian, you know, because how we look at the scriptures, you know, and without even, you know, find ways. And when we talk to people and unpacking these stories and looking at the stories of Sodom and Gomorrah, nobody is looking at the violence, one, and nobody is looking at how, you know, when, you know, said, I have two daughters, you know, that, oh, is it okay that those daughters were going to be sent outside and be harmed? You know, so nobody looked at those things. But we want to read the scripture and you know, misinterpret, you know, and like one line, and then we are okay. But it is not okay that there are people that when said God loved the world, God did not say I love the world and a certain kind of people, but not, you know, yes, it says, but whosoever that believes, and it is a lot of things that why would anybody choose the life that is so difficult? Because also then there's that kind of a conversation about how people think that you just wake up and chose. And then
they say, but why don't you just find a man?
Yes, yeah,
like a good one?
it is a choice. And I always tell people that who in their right mind will want to be and have a life that is very it's like we are unwanted. People want to rob us or, like you look at the things that, now there's a whole issue with trans people because Trump, there's a whole thing within the U.S. that, this is what is happening. So it is a lot of things that we need to do something about the kind of a situation, because nobody deserves violence. Nobody deserve to be rape, corrective rape. Nobody deserve to be unemployed because of their sexual orientation. Nobody, because in countries like Ghana, Kenya and Uganda, because of these laws, people are they basuga emakaya, because families cannot, they do, families don't accept them, so it's a lot of things that are very hectic, and that means that what is the role of the church? Because the place of where we said we are serving God, God loves everyone, God knows why. We have people who are different. We have disabled people, we have tall people, we have short people. God knew how the plant will not have roses only, but we have all kinds of different diversity. The same way that we don't have trees, only we have all kinds of, and so like us as human beings. So it is unfair that there's a certain kind of group of people who did not do anything, but then they find themselves being persecuted, because people create these laws and say, this is un-African, but then how are we operating with laws that were not even for us? But these are laws that we are using, to persecute our own people, especially in Africa. And yes, it is happening all over the place and all over the world, that our people are wanting to be erased, but we are not, it's not okay.
Yeah. And I think for us, working within the digital companion and supporting young people, we're finding that there's quite a lot of young people who are in crisis. And this persecution is also leading to them not being able to access healthcare. Because within healthcare is when we're like, then you get reported. Then, so how do you find it, this religious persecution, especially affecting sexual and reproductive health? How are you seeing those spaces?
Okay. It is also like a difficult, it is very difficult. You see, especially with young people who, mental health is a serious problem.
True.
Because if now someone is fighting, and, because of when all these things are happening, people have internalized this hate. And then we find out this hate is then people are hating on themselves, because now if I am not able to access the things that I need, and I am always, have to fight, for something that is supposed to be given to me, and it creates a lot of problems. We have seen a lot of spaces, like when I said the program that we do, working with Christian Council of Churches. Christian Council of Churches in different countries have a certain power. We've seen here in South Africa with South African Council of Churches, when COVID was happening, that, it was the church that really, made a, like these awareness that people must go vaccinate and all those kinds of things. So in between, because we have figured out that religion is the one that is being used as a weapon. So then it affects everything, health and all kinds of, families, and because everyone, even the nurse who's supposed to be giving an LGBTIQ plus person some service, then they'll start saying
Being
the Bible.
Religious, yes.
Yeah. So it's
we
like,
see that even in contraception with young children, we're like, okay, we have a very high teenage pregnancy, and we have physical health professionals who would rather give religious lectures in the clinic versus giving health care,
Yes. So even within that is what happens. You know, like we've seen here in South Africa, you know, within the Home Affairs, where, you know, the civil union marriage officers, some of the officers they said, you know, because my religion does not allow me, you know, kind of a thing. And then it's like people forget that they are public servants, and you know that whole thing of whether I believe or not, it has nothing to do with, you know, what I need to be offering. So we have really seen a whole lot of people struggling, you know, and also because now if I am not, you know, meaning that people must create their own things. So we've seen a lot of organizations that have been coming up to make sure that if then we have to find a way of having to have these dialogues, so finding a ways of doing awareness in those spaces. So within the work that we do, we're also doing this awareness in clinics and within police system, you know, like different kinds of groups of people, so that then their mind, or you know, they change their mind of what is their role of having to help LGBTI person to give them services that they need, because young people needs those services. Imagine when someone is struggling with mental health and then they are being, you know, they can't access that because, you know, they have been sent away. So in these countries, we find a lot of people that are not able to go in those spaces. So that is where, you know, also the church within MCC, that is what we are trying to establish, to make sure that you know, like here in Africa, we have what we call African MCC network. So it is these kinds of churches and spaces that we have created that are able to come together and begin to have conversation. What can we do together? You know, how do we figure out a way, you know, also, you know, with the role of Global Interfaith Network, how do we figure out a way of making sure that mindset are being changed, so that people are able to go freely? You know, laws are being changed, so that, you know, people cannot have churches like recently I visited one of the countries, and you know, the people go to church, but in secret, you know, because if then they are openly known, then they get arrested, you know. So meaning that, you know, you can't even wear things that will make you be known that you are, you know, you are with the alphabet gang. That's what people
The
say.
alphabet mafia.
Yeah. So yeah. So those kinds of things. So it is a lot of work that needs all of us to come together, but also we need allies that, you know, more churches that can come to the party. Because when people don't realize the after effect of someone a young person who is finding themselves alone, a young person who is scared all the time, a young person who don't have labangaya corner, they just find themselves in that kind of a situation, then they put themselves in risky behaviors. And you know, we have a lot of young people who are using substance right now because they are trying to numb that pain, that nobody wants me at home, they don't want me,
There's something wrong with me.
there's something wrong with me, you know, I don't know where to go, you know. It is hard.
The scariest thing about and me just being an ally, I'm 100% ally. But one of my biggest fears is when you don't feel okay within your own skin, because everyone is telling you, "Worry, there's something wrong," to the point where you've believed it and you've internalized it, and now you're having internal conflict, your own self. Now the people are gone, the church is closed, and you're left alone, you know, to try and balance yourself, because also this thing is not going away. It's who you are, you know. It's like being mad that your eyes are brown and not blue. They are brown. You can put contacts on, they're still brown, you know.
And one of the things that I really admire about your work, is really how the church is such a big influencer in society. We were having a conversation the last shoot about the boy child and how we can bring them to the conversation as well. And I was like, but as traditionalists, as the church, you guys have so much power. How do we get you more involved? And I've got to commend the work that you're doing in doing that, because therein lies the whole power of a society, to say if these people like yourself are more accepting, are more loving, can offer services, then you're having less and less young people who feel so weird under their own skin. That's the only way that I can explain it, that a friend of mine said it, to say, you know, the skin that you're wearing, imagine if it just felt wrong. And I'm just like, how do you live like that? And it's the privilege of being heterosexual, having to question it, and you don't even think, well, okay, as you are going through that, it's so different to what I'm experiencing right now. I think my question would be, what do you think still needs to happen, especially with South Africa being the base where most people are running to from these countries that are still persecuting? What do you think we still need to do as the service providers, as the demand creators, and as the church itself?
Okay. So I think the more of these kinds of conversations are going to help, but creating a space of people talking about their own lived experience. Because sometimes people just say without knowing, you know, I am always the person who says, you know, my story, you know, can change somebody else's story, because, you know, when people are just talking, they are talking from because they have never been have to deal with the fact that they are being labeled. So people talk about, like, you know, but, you know, with the work we begin conversation about, you know, like, how would it feel when you as a person get to be stigmatized, you know, and, you know, let's bring it to be, what is it, how to be a human, you know, and you know, like what still needs to be happening is this awareness, is this engagement, is these dialogues, is making sure that the more these spaces are being created, the more engagement is happening, the more LGBTIQ plus people are coming to the table, and also, you know, because until people know like how it feels to be excluded, and until people know how it feels to be violated, then they will understand that, you know, nobody chooses, nobody made a decision and wake up and say, I want to be gay now. Until we understand that, you know, when we say God is love, what happens to that? And when we are promoting so much hate, you know,
There's
people are
also
blamed for everything. We are blamed for when the weather is
that is exactly, because there's also notions of you converting.
yes,
And I'm like, if you're not gay, you're not gay.
yes,
100 men can come here and say, be gay.
yes,
It's not, you can't convert. It's something you are born with. I think
yes,
that's also what I hear a lot from notions who, no, there's an agenda to convert. And I'm
yes.
like,
But,
there is no agenda
the
to
same thing that
convert.
I
They're
always
trying to
tell
survive.
people that, you know, like, who, like, what is that conversation? Because yes, I think people are taking it from that point of view of, you know, we find, yeah, like on TikTok, there's a whole thing that is happening right now where people will come and say, I'm not anymore. I have found Jesus. It is good for you to have heard, you know, and it does not mean that that is the narrative, because then there's a new thing about, you know, if then other people can change, meaning that you can change, you know, and we don't know lived experience of people. What is the reason why, you know, because if then I have found Jesus for myself, why would I want now to be saying that everyone is wrong. So it is that kind of a message that we give to people and young people right now, to say, once you have worked it out, for yourself, and sit with yourself, whatever hate or traumas and everything that you have internalized, and realize that there was a reason you are here in this world. None of us is a mistake, and none of us have to look in whatever how you look. It's what you got, and you have to make peace with it. But because now we are operating on the other people who have, and also, because then we have separated human beings, we have that language that says these are marginalized, these are, these are,
othering.
so like it's a whole, now it's a group of people who have powers over the vulnerable, and powers over the people who are from the margins, over the, like, so it is a chaos that led us into now these kinds of conversations. I think it is the day when we will really have to come to the table, like you were making an example about a boy child. Gender-based violence is like a thing right now, but we all have to do awareness. We all have to do our part, and to make sure that no one gets to be violated, no one gets to be excluded, no one gets to be treated different because they are different, because we are all going to face an issue that, why do you have the nose that you have? Like, why? But then let's have that conversation with God, because if we all believe that everyone and everything that is here in this world, and is created by God, then we should not be questioning other people because they are different, and treat them bad.
In fact, you are actually questioning God. That's what you are doing in the name of God.
Yes.
So, in as we wrap it up, because I'm getting side eyes there. As we wrap it up, where do you see this beautiful flame of yours? Like, where do you want your whole work and vision and legacy to be going forward?
Okay. So what I am busy trying to do right now is to mentor. So I do mentoring because I had to realize that now I have so many gray hairs, meaning that my days are numbered. All of us, our days are numbered. But how I envision this is to make sure that there's a lot of Nokuthulas. So I spend time with young people, and share my own lived experiences and share my knowledge. But also I am very excited to learn from young people, because then we have the Gen Z, and there's these, like there's a whole thing that we can learn from young people right now. So that is what I, in between doing work, I'm also dedicating my life to make sure that there's other people that are getting, that I share, what I have learned, and and help them in their own journey and in their own spirituality, and promoting issues around justice, and making sure that this does not die. Because I would not want to, I always, when I pray, I said, God, the day when I am empty, the day when I have contributed enough to this world, is the day that I know that my time has ended. But the more what we seeing, the hate, what we are seeing is like we have gone 5 steps forward. Now we have back 200 steps backwards. So meaning that people like me, and there's a lot of us who wants to make sure that there's changes. There's we continue promoting love. Sometimes we are putting our life at risk, because this topic is just a topic that is really not wanted. People want to not to hear. But I work and try to make sure that I continue serving and giving myself to others, so that then the others are taking work forward. So that is my legacy, and that is what I want to leave, to make sure that there's love for all of us, and teaching other religious leaders to say, our role was not to condemn. Whatever that God has given us, God did not give us to condemn or hate or kill or harm, others. It's a lot of things. It's not even about the queer conversation. Churches have become, some of the churches have become very harmful, to women, to young children. There's a lot of conversations that needs to happen to make sure that we become the church that when Jesus Christ died, died to make sure that there was a change. But all kinds of religion have a role to play. I got to learn, because Global Interfaith Network is a
All
space
denominations.
of all kinds,
all
and
faiths.
we believe that we can contribute, because and make a change in other people's lives in different ways. And there's no one way. Sometimes we get stuck into thinking that there's one way, but also we get stuck in thinking that we have all the knowledge, without having to allow ourselves to say, if I go into a place where I don't know, I need to learn from those people. The context that I am going into can teach me something. So, that we are willing to be teachable, and we are willing to open our heart and open our, our mind, our mindset of thinking that, there's a whole lot of young generation, young people that needs us. And that is what I work towards, making sure that if I reach one young person and change their lives, and they change me as a person, then I know that I have contributed enough. Young people cannot commit suicide while we are here. Young people cannot find themselves misplaced or displaced. Young people cannot find themselves not having where to run to when we are here, that we can offer, our love and support, and, and just be there, and be present. Because something that we are missing also is the part that, it's being present. Being present does not mean that we have to be saying and doing, but being present for one person. So that is what we are doing as a church also, to make sure that we are opening this space for the next generation of young people.
And then just the last question, if we would go back to 10-year-old Nokuthula, what would she say about the work that you're doing today?
I think she will say, wow, you've come a long way.
Yeah.
And feel proud that I found help. She found help along the way. Because maybe what I can say is that I did not be what I am today if my mother, my grandmother, all the journeys, all the negative things that people think, that was hard. So all the experiences for me has shaped me. And also along the way, I have found people who poured in my life, like, Reverend Tandegiso, and a lot of women that carried me into being the person that I am today. So I'm always saying, like you are asking that question about my 10-year-old, will say, you have really made it. I always make a joke to say, when you have step forward, you've made it in life. So I feel she will say, I am proud of you. You have made it in life.
Reverend Dhladhla, I just want to thank you so much for coming today. Truly, I mean, you showed up with your full truth, and I know for us and our digital community, it is going to touch a lot of young people's hearts because, as I said, we also deal with a lot with young people who have religious trauma, who are in crisis, who feel alone, like how you were saying that you started. So thank you so much for reminding us that the healing and the holiness does not need to be separate. Something that can actually happen. And just for being the leader that you are in communities, because I know it might even not you reaching someone, but knowing that there is a person like you who's doing the work that you do that can inspire so many young people to say, if she can do it, then it must not be wrong, you know? So thank you so much for coming today. Your words have really touched us. In fact, your life story is just awesome. It's amazing. And with that, this is Unscripted. Thank you very much for listening. Until we come through next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.